In this channel, we have explored the great artistic legacy that Amy Winehouse left us, a legacy that shines with her incomparable talent. However, several of our subscribers have expressed their desire to understand the other side of the coin, that raw and painful truth that some channels have sensationalized. It's true, we cannot change the past, but we can learn from it. By analyzing her trajectory and her life, we can unravel the factors that led to a tragic and heartbreaking end. What lessons can we draw from this story? A reminder that amidst the vicissitudes of life, whether we are artists or not, we will face ups and downs that are intrinsic part of the human journey, and therein lies the importance of staying in control. Let's start this special dedicated to Amy Winehouse, a journey that will take us to the past and lead us to the outcome that marked her departure. Under the facade of talent and charisma, Amy carried a backpack of unresolved problems, shadows that lurked from her childhood and adolescence that unfortunately accompanied her until her last days. In her struggle against despair and facing, at the age of 9, the separation of her parents because of her father's infidelity, Amy sought solace in music, but also in dark habits. As one harmful habit, before every musical performance or meeting with loved ones, she would request succulent delicacies and drinks, hiding her pain under a cloak of feasting, and she would retreat in silence to face a private torment, vomiting as a way of escape, a cycle that repeated itself in a sad symphony of self-destruction. Like a constant melody, her circle of friends accompanied her through the stages of her life, united by deep bonds. However, a silent enemy infiltrated their young lives: eating disorders. What began as an innocent desire to look better soon became a self-destructive ritual, a secret pact to defy their bodies, unaware of the clutches of disease slowly closing around them. She was the only one of her friends who could not break that self-destructive pattern. It is known that she started consuming drugs and alcohol from an early age. However, she was against the use of hard drugs. She liked marijuana and alcohol. Years later, the scars on her wrists and arms would be a hidden testimony to her insatiable quest for attention. Self-laceration, a visceral expression of her internal struggle, left traces that spoke of her pain in silence. These early roots of emotional instability marked the beginning of a desperate search for meaning and authenticity in her adult life. Amy Winehouse struggled with addiction issues throughout her life, and by her teenage years, she was experimenting with substances. As her fame grew, her addiction problems also intensified. It was publicly known that Amy faced multiple health and legal problems due to her drug and alcohol abuse. Her tragic story and her struggle with addiction were heavily documented in the media and in her music. The figure of her grandmother Cynthia, with whom she shared a special bond, brought a sense of security and unconditional love to her world. But the tragic loss of this friend and confidant left an abysmal void in her heart. This void, which would last throughout the years, leading her to experiment with tumultuous and self-destructive relationships in search of the attention and affection she craved. Her love stories were intense and complex, with ups and downs of passion, conflict, codependency, excesses, and experiences in heartbreak that, through her music, generated catharsis and catapulted her career worldwide. These tumultuous relationships reflected the inner chaos she struggled to understand and control.
Amy Winehouse had several relationships throughout her life, some of which were public and others less known. Chris Taylor, he was one of Amy's first known boyfriends. The relationship occurred in her teenage years before she became famous. She had a relationship with Alex Clare, who later became a singer and musician. The relationship was before Amy reached worldwide fame. We come to the antagonist of her life, Blake Fielder Sybil. This was one of Amy's most prominent and troubled relationships. They married in 2007 after a time of on and off relationship. Their relationship was tumultuous and marked by drug abuse. It was Blake Fielder, the troubled ex-husband, who inspired the singer's Grammy-winning Back to Black album and divorced her to set her free in 2009. A junkie and a hardcore heroin addict who admitted to introducing her to hard drugs like crack, cocaine, among others, and remains, in the eyes of many fans, responsible for her untimely death at only 27 years old. He charged the singer 150 pounds sterling, about $242, every time she wanted to kiss him and be near him. Already at that time, Amy was cannon fodder for the British tabloids and worldwide. One night, when her ex-husband, the love of her life and drug addict Blake Fielder, had been jailed for drug dealing, a dozen paparazzi were massed in the doorway of her apartment in Camden, and as it was a bit chilly, Amy opened her living room window, whistled at him, and invited them all upstairs for a drink to warm up. That was Amy, the girl next door, the daughter of a cab driver, to whom God had given a wonderful voice, the kind that gets into your soul. This dark episode of lovelessness and toxicity in Amy's life was the trigger that made her lose herself, putting above her career, mental health, and existence a man who never loved her. Amy drank mostly vodka, but she also mixed it with ketamine, ecstasy, and of course cocaine, and even heroin, which she snorted. He swallowed life on drugs. Perpetually on the verge of collapse, she was persuaded to go to a clinic for detoxification. It was useless. On June 23, 2008, a year before her death, a doctor ruled that Amy was suffering from pulmonary emphysema. Her lungs were only operating at 70% capacity. The result of her pulmonary distress was because Amy kept smoking crack cocaine. Amy became so frightened that she began to quit smoking and put on nicotine patches. A few months later, in October, the doctor who was treating her at the London clinic told her that her lungs were infected. What was not announced in those days was that Amy suffered from severe bulimia. That was not known until her brother confessed it a couple of years after her death. Amy Winehouse's last partner was Reg Travis, the semi-unknown filmmaker Reg Travis, whom she was to marry. They met in 2010 thanks to a mutual friend, and because Travis lived a few blocks from Amy's house. But days before Amy died, sadly, the relationship had come to an end. According to available reports and testimonies, in the last hours of her life, Amy spent time at her home in London. It is known that she spent part of the afternoon and evening in the company of her bodyguard. She was seen in a local pub and then returned home. On Thursday night, before she died on Saturday, Andrew, her bodyguard, discovered Amy with her computer, recreating herself in her own videos propagated on YouTube. Amy noticed and told the bodyguard, "Boy, I can sing." It was her true passion. She was found dead in her bed around noon on July 23, 2011. The cause of her death was determined to be ethyl intoxication. The amount of alcohol in her system was significantly high and exceeded the limit to which her body could overcome. The autopsy determined that his body contained 416 milligrams of alcohol per deciliter of blood, and 3 bottles of vodka, 2 large and 1 small, were found next to his body.
Amy Winehouse's tragic departure at the age of 27 resonated deeply in the music world. Her courageous and heartbreaking struggle with addiction and mental health challenges were immortalized in her music and the artistic legacy she left behind. Through her heartfelt and emotional lyrics, Amy shared her personal experiences with an authenticity that touched the hearts of millions around the world. And although her time on this earth was brief, her impact lives on through her work, serving as a reminder of the importance of addressing with compassion and empathy the inner struggles that are often hidden behind the glitz of fame. Amy Winehouse's life and music continue to inspire conversations about mental health, addiction, and human vulnerability, reminding us of the need for support and understanding in difficult times. Her legacy is a call to awareness and a reminder that even through pain, artistic expression can forge connections and convey a message of hope and healing. If you like this special and want to know more about Amy Winehouse, let me know in the comments.